As a child, my first Superman experience was not a comic book, but a TV show. George Reeves was and always will be my Superman, and The Adventures of Superman was my first exposure to the Man of Steel and superheroes. As a child, I saw the Superman series in repeats in the late 1950s and the early 1960s, and it opened up a new world for me. Yes, I did wear one of my mom's towels as a cape and flew from room to room in our apartment, hunting evildoers, and occasionally would jump down from a chair or sofa in a super landing. What? Hold on a minute. Stay tuned for the video.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman. Strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way.
If you're a fan of Superman, you might be familiar with the 1950s TV series, The Adventures of Superman, which ran from 1952 to 1958 and starred George Reeves as Clark Kent, Superman, a reporter for the Daily Planet who secretly fights crime with his superpowers. The show ran for 104 episodes during its 6 seasons, and it's considered by some of us older guys as one of the most iconic and influential representations of the character. The show featured a mix of crime, drama, science fiction, comedy, and adventure, and it showcased Superman's abilities, his dual identity as Clark Kent, and his relationship with Lois Lane, who was played by Phyllis Coates in the first season, and by Noel Neill in later seasons, Jimmy Olsen, played by Jack Larson, and Perry White, who was played by John Hamilton. Robert Shane played Inspector Henderson, a police officer who often worked with Superman. The show was sponsored by Kellogg's, a cereal manufacturer, and it had a catchy theme song. The show's first 2 seasons were filmed in black and white, while the later 4 seasons were filmed in color. But with so many episodes to choose from, which ones are the best ones to watch? Here are my picks for the 10 best 1950s The Adventures of Superman episodes. Number 10, Superman in Exile, Season 2, Episode 7. In this episode, Superman becomes radioactive after stopping a disaster at an atomic plant.
Civil defense, sound the all clear. The danger from the nuclear pile has been brought under control. Stand back, everyone. Get me a Geiger counter.
But Superman, we want to thank you. Millions of lives were saved thanks to you.
Get me a Geiger counter.
Do as he says.
Yes, sir. Professor, if there had been an explosion, that radiation would have been spread all over, wouldn't it?
Yes, that's true. Now it simply can't happen.
But it's new, isn't it? And you haven't quite figured on how to handle it, have you?
The radiation? No. That's why we started to break up the pile the moment we discovered it. It's too dangerous. Anything contaminated may stay that way forever.
You see, the terrific power of the radiation seems to have become concentrated in me.
No, it can't be. Your whole body radioactive forever.
He decides to leave Metropolis and go into exile, fearing that he might harm anyone who comes near him. Scientists contact Superman with some possible solutions. Now, this episode is a great example of how the show used real-world issues such as the atomic age and the Cold War to create drama and suspense. It also shows how much Superman cares about humanity and his friends, even at the cost of his own happiness. Number 9, The Face and the Voice, Season 2, Episode 10. In this episode, George Reeves plays a dual role as Superman and Boulder, a thug who looks exactly like him. Boulder is hired by a criminal boss to impersonate Superman and commit crimes. Jimmy Olsen and Perry White are fooled by Boulder's disguise and the setup, but Clark Kent suspects something is wrong. Wonder why? But he starts to think he may be sleepwalking. Jimmy recognizes one of the henchmen and is tied up by him. Clark has to find a way to expose Boulder, save Jimmy, and clear Superman's name. Now, this episode is a fun showcase of Reeves' acting skills as he plays both the heroic Superman and the villainous Boulder. Reeves channels his inner Bruno.
I ain't gonna do it.
But Boulder, you just promised you would do it.
Well, all right, so I changed my mind already.
The episode also explores the theme of identity and how appearances can be deceiving. Number 8, Panic in the Sky, Season 2, Episode 12. In this episode, one of my favorites, Superman loses his memory after colliding with an asteroid that is heading towards Earth.
Well, your eyes probably do a better job of it than the telescope.
Stop moving now.
Well, it's turned from its course and started to burn again. You can't see it move because now it's coming straight toward us.
Straight toward Metropolis? Excuse me, Professor. I've got a date in outer space.
No, don't try it, Superman.
Maybe I can knock it off its course.
Now listen, they've got spectroscopic photos in there and we can't even identify the minerals and gases in that asteroid.
So?
Your powers may have no control over them. Here on Earth, yes, but suppose that's made of kryptonite or some other unknown element from cosmic space which even you can't handle.
That's just a chance we'll have to take. Look, it's starting to fall now. It's picking up speed. Goodbye, Professor.
Chance. That's all it is. Just a chance. It may cost the world a terrible price. Superman.
Mr. Kent!
Excuse me, please.
Jeepers, where'd you go? I've been worried sick. What with you not coming to the office since last night, and the chief yelling for you all the time, and all that stuff about Superman going on.
I had these keys. It seemed like the right place to come to. I don't know.
You're not mad at me for coming to your place, are you? The guy downstairs let me in, and I figured you wouldn't mind.
I don't know.
What's the matter, Mr. Kent? Gee, you look tired.
Tired? Yes. Yes, I'm tired.
Well, it's no wonder with all this excitement going on. I'll tell you what. Why don't you go and take a good hot shower? I'll run out and get some sandwiches and coffee.
Shower. That's a good idea.
I'll be back right away.
He crashes back on Earth and makes his way back to his apartment where Jimmy was waiting. Now, he doesn't recognize Lois, Jimmy, or Perry White, so they bring him back to the Daily Planet in hopes that the familiar surroundings will help him get his memory back. Meanwhile, the asteroid, now in orbit, is causing tidal waves, sandstorms, and other weather-related natural disasters, so finding Superman is necessary. This episode is widely regarded as one of the best of the series, and for good reason. It has a gripping plot, a lot of emotion, and some impressive special effects, at least for its time. It also gives us a glimpse of what Superman would be like if he didn't know his origin or his mission. The episode also features one of the most iconic scenes of the show, when Superman regains his memory and flies into space to divert the asteroid. Number 7, All That Glitters from Season 6, it's Episode 13. In the final episode of The Adventures of Superman, titled All That Glitters, Professor Periwinkle invents a machine that can turn scrap metal into gold, but also produces a form of kryptonite called Positive K. When two criminals kidnap the professor and threaten Lois and Jimmy, they take some pills made from Positive K that gave them superpowers like Superman. They use their abilities to rescue the professor and stop the crooks.
Yeah, let's go.
Shall we take him, Miss Lane?
Allow me.
Look, they knocked the door down just like Superman.
Don't just stand there, do something.
The bullets bounce off him just like Superman.
That's because we are like Superman, and you two crooks are washed up. Allow me, Miss Lane.
Be my guest.
That'll teach him to fool around with Super Olsen.
You find some ropes and tie them up. I'll call the police.
Right, Miss Lane.
But it turns out to be a dream sequence. Now, this episode is the final one of the series, and it's a fitting farewell to the characters and the show. It's a lighthearted and humorous story that plays on a comic book trope. What if Superman's friends had powers too? Number 6, The Stolen Costume. The Stolen Costume is the 13th episode of the first season of The Adventures of Superman. In this episode, a burglar named Johnny Sims breaks into Clark Kent's apartment and discovers his secret closet where he keeps his Superman costume. He steals the costume and takes it to his boss Ace and his boss's girlfriend Connie, who plan to use it to blackmail Superman. However, Johnny is shot by the police, and before he dies, he reveals Clark's address and apartment number. Clark, meanwhile, is desperate to find his missing costume and prevent Ace and Connie from exposing his secret. He enlists the help of his friend, Candy Myers, a private detective. Ace and Connie try to blackmail Superman, but things don't work out well for the duo. Number 5, The Big Freeze, Season 4, Episode 3. In this episode, a corrupt politician named Duke Taylor and his henchman, Little Jack, plot to rig an election by eliminating Superman with the help of a mad scientist named Dr. Watts. Dr. Watts has invented a device that can lower the temperature to minus 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which he claims can destroy Superman's powers. They lure Superman into a trap and expose him to the freezing device, turning him white and powerless.
What's the matter, Superman? You look cold.
Where are they? What have you done with them?
You mean your little friends?
Yes.
Oh, they're safe and sound.
Superman!
Are you all right, Miss Lane?
Gee, Buzz, he looks like a snowman.
Yeah, don't he, though? Come on, we got work to do.
They forced us into a car and brought us here. But you, Superman.
Jeepers, does it hurt?
No, but my strength is completely gone.
So tomorrow, Duke Taylor and his thugs take over the city.
And there aren't enough policemen to stop him.
I'm afraid you're right. It's up to the people now. They've really got to get out and vote.
Superman escapes and disguises himself as Clark Kent using Lois Lane's makeup. The crooks fail to pay Dr. Watts, so he goes to the Daily Planet and tells Clark Kent that Superman can be fixed, or possibly die, by exposing himself to an intense heat. Superman takes the chance, recovers, and delivers the villains to the police, and ensures a fair election. Number 4, The Mind Machine. Fans of this classic TV show might remember the episode The Mind Machine, Episode 8 from the first season. In this episode, Superman faces a dangerous enemy who uses a device that can control and destroy people's minds. The episode begins with a scientist named Dr. Stanton working with his assistant on his invention, the Mind Machine. The machine is supposed to help people with nervous disorders by stimulating their brains with electric impulses. However, a gangster named Lou Kranick kidnaps the doctor and steals the machine. Clark is approached by Dr. Stanton's assistant and told of the abduction. Kranick uses the Mind Machine to eliminate the witnesses who are testifying against him in a crime commission trial. The Mind Machine causes the victims to lose their memory and sanity, and eventually die. Now, Lois is also scheduled to testify against Kranick, as she has evidence of his involvement in a smuggling ring. Superman arrives just in time to save Lois and stop Kranick. Dr. Stanton destroys the machine, while Superman captures the gangsters and his men. The episode has some memorable scenes, such as Superman flying after a runaway bus and Superman catching a falling airplane. Number 3, The Mysterious Cube from Season 6, Episode 4. Now, this episode of The Adventures of Superman aired on February 24th, 1958. The plot revolves around Paul Barton, a notorious criminal who has been hiding for 7 years inside a metal cube. The cube is made of a very strong material that absorbs sound and energy. Paul's brother, Steve, and his partner, Jody, are waiting for him outside the cube, hoping to get him declared legally dead at noon the next day so that he can come out with a clean record and escape justice. Superman must find a way to get into the criminal's hiding place, made of an incredibly strong material that even the Man of Steel cannot penetrate with his usual powers. Superman, who's been trying to catch Paul for years, is determined to stop him from getting away. He visits Professor Lucerne, a physicist, who tells him that he can learn to walk through walls by vibrating his molecules at the right frequency. Yes, just like the Flash. Superman decides to try this method, but he faces a problem. The mysterious metal is 3 feet thick and may not allow him to get through. And the criminals have also taken Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen as hostages as insurance, threatening to kill them with cyanide if Superman interferes. Number 2, The Defeat of Superman from Season 2, Episode 6. In this episode, Superman faces one of his most dangerous situations, exposure to synthetic kryptonite. The plot revolves around a criminal named Happy King, who returns to Metropolis with a plan to get rid of Superman once and for all. He hires a European scientist who has managed to create artificial kryptonite from a fragment of the real thing. Happy King tests his weapon by shooting a bullet with a tiny piece of kryptonite at Superman, who feels the sting but doesn't suspect anything. Later, Happy King lures Superman into a trap. He confronts Superman with a large bar of synthetic kryptonite, which weakens him and makes him collapse. However, as you probably have guessed, Superman manages to escape, this time with the help of Lois and Jimmy. Number 1, The Unknown People, Season 1, Episodes 25 and 26. These episodes are based on the theatrical film Superman and the Mole Men from 1951.
Many years ago, when the planet Krypton, home of a race of supermen, exploded in space, the sole survivor was an infant boy who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Today, that boy, grown to manhood, is known as Superman. To better aid him in his never-ending fight against the forces of evil, he masquerades as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper. No one is aware that Kent is Superman, valiant defender of truth, justice, and the American way.
The film served as a pilot for The Adventures of Superman and prompted the start of production of the first season in August and September of that same year. However, the series discontinued production and remained unaired until September 1952, when cereal manufacturer Kellogg's agreed to sponsor the show, which they had previously done with the radio program. The first episode of Superman and the Mole Men tells the story of how Clark Kent and Lois Lane travel to Silsbee, Texas, where the deepest well ever drilled has been shut down by the oil company. They discover that 2 mysterious creatures with large heads and furry hands have emerged from the well and are exploring the town. The creatures are harmless, but they cause things they touch to glow in the dark and may be radioactive.
If you don't want to talk or look at any of my books, maybe you'd like to play catch. Why, it's getting prettier. It sort of shines all over. Are you magic?
The mob of townspeople wants to kill the unknown people, fearing they are invaders. In the second episode, one of the creatures is shot.
You're not going to shoot those little creatures. In the first place, they haven't done you any harm. In the second place, they may be radioactive. If they fall in the reservoir, they may contaminate the water supply. time and ammunition, Benson. Clever, quick!
Superman rescues him and takes him to the hospital, where he learns that the creatures are actually survivors of an ancient civilization that lived underground. He also finds out that there are more of them in the well, waiting for their friends to return. Superman decides to take the creatures back to their home, hoping that they will be left in peace. Together, these two episodes are not only the best ones in the series, but also a powerful story that deals with themes of prejudice, tolerance, and compassion.
You're gonna step aside or we have to make trouble.
Put some lead in him, Luke.
Mr. Benson tried that once already. It didn't work. Now I'm going to give you one last chance to stop acting like Nazi stormtroopers.
Who are you to tell us what to do?
All I'm telling you is that little creature in there has as much right to live as you do. Don't forget, you invaded his world. You sank a pipe 6 miles into the ground. And when he climbed up, you set dogs on him, shot him. Get inside and stay away from the front of the building. Whoever fired that shot came close to killing Miss Lane. Obviously, none of you can be trusted with guns. So I'm going to take them away from you.
Now, some interesting facts about the show. Mort Weisinger, editor on many of the Superman and Batman books at DC, was called out to Hollywood to become the story editor for the series due to some prior experience in television. In 1975, in the DC book The Amazing World of DC Comics, Weisinger recalled about this experience, quote, "On the way out to the coast, we sat in a roomlet in a train with a tape recorder and plotted about 15 stories for the series. I met George Reeves, the actor who played Superman, and was one hell of a nice guy. Very, very unaffected. The amazing thing was that when you met Reeves, you said, 'My lord, it's Clark Kent.' It was like seeing Clark step out of the comic pages into 3 dimensions." With his TV connection, Weisinger got Reeves a guest spot as Superman on the I Love Lucy show, a famously funny show that aired on January 14th, 1957.
How do you do? My name is Superman.
Oh, boy, am I glad to see you.
Come on in here. I want an explanation.
Okay.
Come on in here right now.
Can you teach me to fly?
Lucy, of all the crazy things that you've done in the 15 years that we've been married, that's a trick.
Cargill, you mean to say that you've been married to her for 15 years?
Yeah, 15 years.
And they call me Superman.
Two more seasons of The Adventures of Superman were planned, but the show faced some challenges and controversies, such as budget constraints and the tragic death of George Reeves in 1959. The Adventures of Superman was popular among children and adults alike, and became a cultural phenomenon. The Adventures of Superman is a classic TV show that has left a lasting legacy on the superhero genre and on popular culture. It's still enjoyed by many fans today who appreciate its charm, humor, action, and nostalgia. If you want to watch the show, you can find it on DVD or on streaming platforms. So, have you watched The Adventures of Superman? Do you agree with my top 10? Let me know in the comments. And while you're waiting for the next video, check out these Superman videos on my channel.